Hey guys, Matt McQueenie, Mix Minus Podcast. How are you all doing? It is February 26th, 2017. Beware, there are only 2 days left in the month. It is not a leap year. February is nuts. It's such a short month. Just those 2 to 3 days that are cut off just make it feel so abrupt in its ending. And it's often a month that people in the sports world in particular bemoan because there are not big things happening other than the Super Bowl, which happens early in the month. And it's just a lot of quiet time. You have the NBA All-Star Game, which ends up pretty much removing a week of NBA basketball of actual games. You do have the Oscars, which are tonight, February 26th, but sports people don't necessarily love that. I always like it because you have the Super Bowl at the one end, the Oscars at the other. My podcast does features and focuses on both things, especially the Oscars. So I have enough to do. I almost can use that downtime from sports so that I can really make headway into the movies. But it's a quiet month for many, and I don't mind that. Again, we need to be focused and diversified on doing other things, maybe than just sports. It's very important, but it's not everything. Politics has been front and center for obvious reasons. As I said, movies are happening, even though it's not necessarily the movies that are the blockbusters, which tend to come in the summer. They're the sort of art house type movies, Oscars movies, which the box office on them tend to not be amazingly lucrative. Therefore, the people who just want to kind of get into the emotional, novel aspects of movies, they want to get deep thought. They want to get character development. They want to get whatever it is they want from it. But it's a good time. This month I've had a lot going on. Last week I appeared on the Earnestly Speaking podcast. I met Ernest Christian. Well, I didn't even realize when I met him, but he had heard me for the first time on the Jeff Pearlman podcast I did, which was over 2 years now, I believe. And that was the first time he heard me, and I really wasn't in contact with him much. I noticed him sort of follow me on Twitter, and we started interacting organically, I'd say over the last 6 months, more so. And he does a really good job. He also, like me, has a 2-year-old child, and he has another on the way. I don't have one on the way as we speak. We'll see about that in the coming years. But we have a lot of things that are common between us. And so it was a real good thing to finally meet. First time we ever talked was on his podcast, and it was like long lost friends. It went for 2 hours. I couldn't believe it. Get me a latte and I can go. And he was very magnanimous in his time to give me the time to speak. And I found it really interesting to be on the other end of the podcast on the double ender. I thought it was, it changes the complexion of how you speak and how you put out your thoughts. When they're being driven by someone else, you just sort of, you don't take for granted what the audience knows about you. So you might say things that you don't say on a regular basis on your own podcast. And that's a silly thing sometimes to overthink, because you never know when somebody is interacting with your content. If it's the first time, that story that maybe you told 10 episodes ago or 100 episodes ago needs to be told now, and we can overthink ourselves on these things. And so it was really neat to kind of go through my progression of podcasting, how I got there, and he has a lot of the same starting points. He'd been doing it for more than me. He's been doing it for 6 years. I'm so bad with time. I'm at, I think, 3.5 or so, maybe a little more. So he's been really going at it a lot more. He's had more conventional opportunities on Fox Sports Radio and different other shows like that. I've strictly done podcasting. I love it. But it was really fun to do. It was just great to be on the other end. As I said, it was just something that focuses your mind. You don't feel it's not necessary to be driving the show the whole time. You're just kind of talking. It's like two guys talking. It was the best parts of what podcasting brings. And I felt that we sort of exalted each other in conversation, and we have so many similar likes that it was just like two old friends talking. So it was really good. This week, I traveled. I do not travel a lot for my job. And then all of a sudden, I traveled this week to Washington, D.C., and then I'll be traveling to Atlantic City for 2 nights next week. It's funny how that happens, where you don't do something forever, and then you're doing it like 2 to 3 times within a short time span. So this week, I got word from someone I work with. He comes on this podcast all the time, Tim Castano. He's into Oscar stuff. He's into sports. He's politics. I really enjoy the guy. He knows so much. He's way out of my league in terms of knowledge. So when I can bring him on, it's great to pick his brain. It's sort of the way Bill Simmons can bring on people like Malcolm Gladwell or Chuck Klosterman. You just sort of know they're above your league, but if you can hang with them, it can just create great content. And Tim is fantastic. He's a great conversationalist. He knows so much. And he is, as well as being on my podcast, he's the president of a think tank called New Start New Jersey. And it focuses on a lot of kind of liberal policy, pushing it out at the state level, learning from things on the national level, learning from other states of what we could bring to our state. And he was a part of building that from the ground up. He is the president and CEO. And where I work, the company I work for, we were kind of the staff behind him as one of our clients to help build that up, from the communications angle to the website development to social media development. Podcasts have become a huge part of it, partly because of conversations I had with him early, being somebody who is so deeply into podcasting. Podcasts really made a lot of sense. It was something I was good at doing and understood how to do. So he was able to kind of take it, and he's done a lot of podcasts, both with the founder of the organization, and then he's taken the mantle over a lot. So that was something that was really neat to be involved with and to help launch, and for podcasting to be something that took such prominence in my life, and to be able to kind of convey that into this new organization, and it became sort of an organizing principle of this place, was quite neat. So last week he was telling me that there was going to be a podcast in Washington, D.C., and the co-founder, Tammy Murphy, was going to be in town in D.C., and she was going to be with Neera Tanden, and that we could do the podcast on location at the Center for American Progress, where Neera Tanden is the president of. And so once he got word, at first he reached out to me and he said, what do I do? I'm going to ask them if they can record this and host it, because they have some podcasting facilities or radio broadcasting type facilities. He's going to ask them if they would be able to do it. But he said, short of that, what do we do? Do I take equipment down? I being Tim. And then it was sort of happening in real time. So I talked to him and I said, boy, that's something I would love to go to. If you can't get them to record, you're probably going to need me anyway. That's a really big guest. Neera Tanden probably would have been in a cabinet of Hillary Clinton, or the head of a department like Health and Senior Services, or Health and Human Services, whichever one it is. So this is a big guest. I mean, she's the president of a pretty major think tank, public policy shop, very big time. And so we kind of discussed it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be going away to Atlantic City in 2 weeks, but this is something I'd really like to go to. I love the idea of just being able to travel. And as a parent, it gets just so difficult. You get so into your routine of you being with your son or your child for the 2 hours in the morning, then getting home at night and being the one to put him to bed, give him his bath, and be the primary partner in that endeavor. And you just get so used to it that upending that apple cart is something that you just convince yourself sort of out of doing. And so when it turned into the beginning of this previous week, I had decided, once Tim told me that the Center for American Progress would be able to do the recording, I said, you know what? I'm not going to go crazy on this. I will hang back. I will not go forward and do this, because I just felt like it was upending too many routines in order for me to go and pretty much just be an observer of a process. I mean, it's great to have extra hands on deck there, but I wasn't going to be a crucial, essential character in this. I was going to be the old non-essential personnel. And then I got home on Monday night, and my wife was just very intense about, you need to do this. You should go. Is this not something that you really want to go to that would be important? I said, well, it is, but again, I'm not essential. And we had this whole discussion. And then she kind of landed on the fact, she's like, look, my mom will pick up the slack on Thursday night. Melanie, my wife, actually had a concert that night that she was either conducting or assisting in a primary essential way. And so that meant that it would have been that much more important for me to be home that night because I was going to be the only parent. But she said her mom would hang back and be with our son until he goes to bed and then leave when Melanie got home. And then we worked it out that our nanny would actually come early on Friday morning because we do have a nanny on Wednesdays and Thursdays. My mom and Melanie's mom pick up the other days, and we actually worked that out. And so it got to the point where there was really no excuse to not do this. And so I had opened myself up to the opportunity. I was really excited about doing this. I love going to see other people's setups, where they are in the process when you're talking about podcasting. When you're in podcasting, it's something that almost becomes a little fraternity behind the scenes, or should we say a sorority too. It's just something, there's connections across. It's like this whole network of people that are all trying to disseminate content to the same platforms and use the same kinds of equipment. And you learn from one place and then you learn from another, and then you all kind of come together and you give your lessons of what you learned to do. It's just a fun, collaborative kind of environment. So I really looked forward to going to a place that quote unquote has it figured out in many regards. They have a beautiful gleaming building in Washington, D.C. They're based where I went was on the 10th floor. So you're overlooking Washington, which is a city that doesn't have very tall buildings by mandate. And so it was sort of the gleaming tower on the hill. It's all been redone. It looks beautiful, very all glass, all that. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of swap stories with whoever runs this. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to go. I told Tim, I said, I'll go. Let's do it. And that was happening. So we decided on Thursday I would go into work as normal in the morning, and then Tim had a lunch, I think, around Princeton, and we wanted to try to find a way to go down together. You could talk through things, do all that stuff. So I ended up going from Newark, where I work, to Princeton via train, about an hour train ride, and then he picked me up in Princeton, and then we drove the rest of the way. So it was really fun. It's on top of it, it's been 65 to 75 degrees over those couple days. It was like 70 when I got into Princeton. And it was just beautiful weather. You would think it's April already, the end of April. So it made the trip a lot easier. We were going down there basically in t-shirts, or not t-shirts, short sleeve shirts. Another thing I noticed, this was the first time I was traveling with the AirPods I got, the Apple wireless headphones. And I'll tell you what, travel is not something that makes you feel secure about these things. There were no issues. They stayed in place. But you're just always accounting for them psychologically. You're always accounting of where their case is, where they are. They feel so light that they don't even feel like they're in your ears. You're always worried about them. And also, I feel like they're a good that is kind of sought after by others because they're not out in the market a lot. The back order on them is so much. So when you're walking around some places and cities, you feel sort of insecure with them. Or not insecure, you know what I mean? You feel vulnerable with them. And so they're really not the greatest thing to be traveling with because you're so afraid to lose them as well. But anyway, I did listen to them on the train ride as I was reading the New Yorker as well before I got to Tim. Then Tim and I went the rest of the way. We got into Washington really at an okay time, like 6:30, but we got kind of lost and I didn't actually get to my hotel until 7:30. Cool hotel, Capitol Hilton, and it's on the same street as the White House. You can actually see it when you come out of the front door of the hotel. The White House is right down the street. The White House, when you see it in person, is so much smaller than you think it's going to be, and especially from a distance. It's really interesting like that. But when I was dropped off at the hotel, I was just it's such a liberating feeling, and this is not to be negative about being a parent and a husband, but when you are on your own just for a night, it's so liberating. You just get that feeling of being single again, being one, and you can be selfish that night. You could do whatever you want. You could eat ice cream, you could drink, you could do, you could do that anyway, but it was just great. And so I just get so excited about what are all the things I'm going to watch? What am I going to do? Where am I going to eat? Am I going to go for a walk? Am I going to do this? It's fun. It's different. And you come home a lot more appreciative. of what you have for obvious reasons. So I go up to the front desk, and first of all, the weirdest thing, I bought my room on Expedia with the hotel or with the company credit card. The reason I do this is Expedia takes the payment right on payment. Whereas a lot of times I feel like when you book in a hotel website, they use the card to hold the room, and then when you get there, they put all the money on the card you give. I don't know if that's still the case, but it's the reason I've always liked to use Expedia. But I get to the front, and this guy's kind of sweet talking me, and he goes, "Can I interest you in moving up in the hotel?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I mean, this is a business trip, so it's not like I'm just really excited on my own to be moving up. I don't care what, whatever room I have, I set up. I got the lowest level room you could get there, where I had like views into other office buildings, and I actually saw people working in the office building from the floor I was on, which I was on the 9th floor of this hotel, and I could look into offices. People were still working until like 10 or 11. I thought it almost felt like that Watergate scene in Forrest Gump. But the guy's like, "Well, what can I do? Can I upgrade you to the Truman Suite?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "For $100 more, you could go to the Truman Suite." And I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? Why is this guy... Why am I being upsold when I'm here for business? It was really strange. And like, what if I said yes? Wouldn't my company be mad? I don't know. But I got my bearings, got all set up. Tim went to stay at a friend's house, a friend's condo that he normally does down there, which was funny because the main client is staying at a friend's house while the agency, the person who services that client is staying in a hotel. Very strange. But the weird thing with Washington, and you always hear this, but it really shuts down early, because I was there, I got myself set up, and it was just after 8, I'd say, that I went out. I had to go to CVS because I forgot a lot of stuff on this trip. It was really weird. It's been so long since I've really gone on a trip that I just forgot so much stuff. And usually when I go on a trip with my family, my wife keeps like a list of all the things we need to bring for our son and for ourselves and all this, and she knocks the list off, checks it off one by one. I just keep it all in this brain up here, this very good brain, but this brain wanders all over the place and I forget millions of things. Before I even left to come on the trip on Thursday morning, I dropped my son off at school like usual, 8:15 down the road, about 8 to 10 minutes down the road. And my wife said, "Why don't you drop him off and then come back to the house, take out your car seat, leave the car seat here for the nanny so she'll have it on Friday, or we'll have the extra here. Why do you need it? You're going to be gone. Leave it here, and then you can go on your way." And I thought, well, that'll be good because then I won't be in a rush to get all my stuff together. It's hard to get your stuff together when you're also getting a little kid's stuff together, and the kid doesn't just hang there while you're trying to get your bags and different things. So I said, oh, that'll be perfect. I'll come back to the house. I'll drop off the car seat, and I'll just get all my stuff and then continue on my way to work. Well, then my wife, which you can't do to a guy, you can't throw more things on when they're holding, 1 or 2 things in their head to do. She said, "Wait, why don't you also go to the supermarket, get 2 of the 5-gallon bottles of water that we have for our water cooler. You turn them in at the supermarket, you get the new ones, and then get like milk and get 2 other things, whatever it was." So now that's on my brain. Drop my son off at school. The supermarket, Stop and Shop's right across the street from there. So that was easy. We're good so far. Got in, got the water bottles, got whatever other things I had to get, headed home. I parked my car in the driveway, usually park it in the garage, but I need some space because I'm going to come out with bags, all that. Parking in the driveway. I start walking in with the 2 huge water bottles. I am jacked, so I can carry 2 at a time. Then as I'm walking in the door, my wife calls me. I pick it up. I don't even remember what happened from this point forward other than talking to her, but I did drop the water bottles off. And I think I started doing other stuff, but I was distracted. She had called me. I blame it on her. And so, long story short, I forgot to put on a water bottle, which in our household is second to treason. You got to put that, 5 gallons. I'm not looking for my wife to be picking that up. That's a hard thing. I feel like every time she picks it up, her back, she gets a little twinge in her back. I don't know if that's just to get at me or not, but whatever. So I forgot to put the water bottle on, and I realized later on in the day, I said, wait a second, did I even bring them in? And I said, oh my God, I'm going to be paying for this. So the other thing is I was able to get all my stuff together, my bags to go. I got some different gear. I got my computer gear. I got my iPad. I actually had 2 iPads with me. I brought my podcasting recorder just in case the mood struck me. It's funny when you go on vacation, you act like when you actually have like 24 hours or even less. I was probably actually in Washington for 18 hours, I'd say. You feel like when you have 18 hours and 7 of those are probably sleeping, you really feel like you have a week. You like save magazines, Netflix shows for download. You bring like podcast gear as if you have a week to put stuff together. I didn't even open my podcast gear, but I was able to get all that stuff out of the house. And then Melanie called me later in the day and she said, "Did you leave the car seat?" And I went, "Oh my God." So the original reason I was supposed to even come home was to leave the car seat. Left that in my car, never took that out, never put the water bottle back on. I was like, oh, I forgot the third thing. I was like 0 for 3. It was just a bad scene. I think I forgot to put out like the car, it was a bad scene. I forgot a million things. And on top of it, when I got down there, I realized I didn't bring a toothbrush. I didn't bring like deodorant. I didn't bring shaving cream, a razor, like any of this stuff. So I found a local CVS and I walked over there. And again, it is like after 8 o'clock. There was like 1 or 2 or 3 things that seemed to be hopping a little bit. There was a place around the corner that looked like it was hopping called Barcode, some kind of beer bar. But otherwise, everything is so dead in Washington at night. But I went into the CVS, got all my stuff. I don't know if this is a normal thing with CVS, but in this one, they have like they had 3 registers which are just self-register, and then there was 1 register with a person, but you could only pay in cash. I don't know what the reasoning is for this, but then when I went to the self-register, it didn't work, and so it's having all these troubles. So you end up having a technician come over and help you anyway. People got to get their tech figured out, but I got all that stuff. The other little secret is, and this always shocks me about going on a business trip. When you go on a business trip, everything is pretty much expensible. So everything you can you keep your receipts and then you submit them into the company and you get the money back for that. It's such a weird thing to me that this is the case. On a normal day, when I go to work, I'm traveling further than most people travel for like a business meeting. I'm going an hour each way. I stop and get coffee, maybe I get something to eat. Maybe when I'm coming home, I pick up some food. You can't expense any of that, and that's fine. That's appropriate. But when you go on when you go on a business trip, everything basically from the minute you leave your office until you get to the place, and from the minute you leave the place and get back to your office, you can expense. At least I think that's how it works. So if you get a coffee on the way down, you can expense that, even though you might get a coffee on the way home and you can't expense that. When you get there, if you forgot things like razors and toothbrush and toothpaste, you can technically expense that, even though in real life, you're not expensing any of that. I don't know. It's just such a weird conundrum and strange thing for me how the expensing works. So I got that, headed back to the hotel. I was a little over caffeinated and I had not eaten a ton that day, so I was a little paranoid. I was on my own. I was alone. As I said, Tim went with his friend and fiance, stayed at their house, and then went out to eat. So I was sort of on my own. And so I decided, let me look at this hotel bar. It's always good to go to the hotel bar. You just feel like a Mac Daddy. So I get back, I put my stuff back in the room, my CVS bag. I come back down and I settle up right at the bar, right in the front there. They got the TVs going. Beautiful looking bar. Not an amazing beer selection. They had some local Washington, D.C. Brow or something like that, but they had no real IPAs. They had a Goose Island, but to me, a Goose Island IPA is like a Bud Light. I think Goose Island is owned by Budweiser now too. I wanted like a real IPA, something local. And they had some kind of, again, this DC Brow, Pilsner, all this. So I just decided, let me get some wine. So I got a couple glasses of wine and it was cool. They had like these, I love the ones where they give you the baby carafes of wine and then pour it into your glass. And they had an awesome little menu. I got like a flatbread, some kind of sausage flatbread, sort of like pizza. It's the rich way of selling pizza for a lot of money. And there was a couple TVs, as I said. Love watching the sports. I didn't really get into it with anybody at the bar in a good way, talking about sports or anything. It was a weird group. The bartenders were kind of strange too. The one guy almost looked like a ninja. He almost looked like Far Eastern, and he was very quiet, very to himself. And you could either take that as sort of shy, I've been around the block, I know what's gone on, who knows if something happened in his homeland that he can't even tell people and he's a refugee. I'm building up that story. I don't even know if that's true. But he was very to himself. He was not going around saying, hey, can I get you something more? Can I get to nobody? And there was one point where these two young, probably Washington interns of some sort were sitting next to me and they're like, we'd like to order. And he goes one moment and he just like leaves. He's not even taking the order and then sort of comes back without even prompting and just waits for them to start talking. So with me, it was the same way, but he wasn't a mean guy. It was really nice. I got my couple glasses of wine sitting at the bar. All that paranoia, all that nervousness goes out the window when you're sitting there. You have your first glass. Had my nice little flatbread, and I was watching sports. It's funny when you're in a place like Washington, you don't really know where anybody's from because everybody comes in on Washington from all around the country and all around the world. But Washington is sort of the meeting place, obviously, when you think of congressmen and you think of senators and you think of the House and you think of how all these people come from around the country to set up shop in Washington for as long as they're there. So you never know where anyone's from. You just have to take it for granted they're all from somewhere else. So on the TV, someone had asked to watch like an NBC Sports Network showing of it was Chicago versus Phoenix. And I'm like, who the hell is watching this game? And so I'm not going to tell anybody to change the channel or do anything like that. So what I did, I had gotten Wi-Fi with my room in the hotel. Weird in the room. It was $13 for like basic Wi-Fi and then $18 for premium. And I was guessing premium was the only way that you could stream anything. It was the only way you can actually get a good enough connection to do work, which I was going to need to do. So again, another thing you kind of add to the expense as well as your meal there at the bar. But so I had that Wi-Fi. I had my phone. I have NBA League Pass. It was the first night back after the NBA All-Star weekend. And so I opened up my phone, used that Wi-Fi I had, and just propped up my phone against the bowl that held the nuts, which, by the way, at this Capitol Hilton, this was like the best nut mix you could possibly have at a bar. It was like upscale. So, you know, you go to a normal bar, they give you like peanuts. Everyone shares from the same peanut thing. Here, when you sit at the bar and you get anything, they give you a starter, your own little bowl of, and it was like a full cup, if not a little more, your own little bowl of like almonds and nuts. And they had these awesome little like wasabi crackers in it. Oh, so good. So good. But I propped my phone up against that little bowl and I just watched the New Orleans Pelicans game. Who were they playing? Was it Houston? It was the Pelicans. It was the first time DeMarcus Cousins was in the game there with the Pelicans. So he was playing alongside Anthony Davis and I just watched that. Again, it was not something that blew you away watching the two of them together. It's early. They had no time to probably practice or figure this whole thing out. Who knows if they will in time? But I was watching that and I was thinking to myself, boy, this is great. I'm sitting in a Washington bar. I could see the White House from the hotel and I'm watching the Pelicans and Boogie Cousins and Anthony Davis play Houston. So it was like a really good thing. And I just kept sitting there. No care in the world. Nothing gets you. And eventually I just kind of moved on back up to my room. Melanie called me and said, how do I get my car seat out of my car? Cause she was rightfully very angry that I had not left my car seat. So because the nanny was going to be coming the next day, she needed to have the car seat. And so Melanie was not happy at 10 o'clock to be doing this, especially when she'd never done it before. But I talked her through it. It was fairly easy. She didn't give me any credit for that, but it's okay. I apologize profusely, but I was on the wrong end of that one. That was a lot of strikes. I did like nothing I was supposed to do, which anybody who's married knows the man usually does that. I also saw some of the Cavaliers-Knicks game in my room, the very end. The Knicks just got completely blown out in that game. And I was completely shocked at the end of that game. Courtney Lee was going up for a meaningless layup with like 5 minutes to go. And LeBron just pursued him and blocked the ball against Courtney Lee was coming in along the sideline. It was sort of a broken, fast breaky play. And LeBron came from the top of the key, jumped up, and just pinned it against the backboard. It was a la the block on Andre Iguodala in Game 7. Not as high stakes in this one, but it was quite a block. It was great. It like got me back into basketball to be just immersed in the games. You know, I sort of watch it in the background with dinner. I'll watch games if they're if they're going towards the end and it's going to be a good finish. But most of the time I don't have the bandwidth to dedicate it to a full basketball game. So it was nice to do that. It was really good. I passed out, as you do. I was exhausted, passed out. I woke up at about 6:30. I thought about going to the gym in the morning. It's always sort of a rite of passage you do when you go on the road. You know, you go to the gym in the morning. It's like having the gym in your house right there in the hotel. But then I saw it was yet another thing they were trying to upsell. Usually the gym is included in a lot of hotel packages. But I saw it was an extra $15. And then I'm kind of hemming and hawing, sitting there deciding what I want to do. I wasn't exactly completely refreshed and regenerated. I was going to have to sort of, the decision needed to be easy about the gym because I needed to fall into the gym and not think anything of it. But then it hit me and I was like, wait a second. It's going to be 80 degrees today on this Friday in February. It was already 60 at 7 a.m. And I looked at my Google Maps and I figured, wait a second. I could run by the White House. I could run on the National Mall. That's the kind of place I'm like looking up articles. Do people actually jog on the National Mall? And of course they do. It comes up as like the top jogging track in Washington. I mean, when you can run and when you look at the map, I was so excited because I was like, oh, I could go by the White House along one side. And then look at that. I could go to the Washington Monument. I could come up and around and then I can go over to the Lincoln Memorial, which if you continue past the Lincoln Memorial, you go over the bridge to Arlington National Cemetery. I wasn't going to do that, but I could come around that and then come up around and then go up the other side of the White House back to my hotel. And I did the math and it looked to be about 3.5 to 4 miles, which is perfect. I had that time. The weather was perfect. And it was awesome deciding to do that. It was invigorating. Many do that every day. There's a lot of people who do this run. When I went on the run, there was like so many people. I mean, I was always running with at least like 2 to 3 people or running by 2 to 3 people. It's just, it's a rite of passage. You just do it. You do the run. And it was cool to me that a lot of these people, this is their commonplace run. They do this every day. So they might not even think this is that amazing. But for me, whether it was the room temperature weather or the novelty of the run, I didn't feel what ended up being 4 miles on the dot, 4.00. I was running like a tourist. I was taking pictures of the Washington Monument when I went by, the Lincoln Memorial. I did a selfie with the White House behind me when I came up around that. And it was awesome. And you know what? I went down to Washington for the night, and in no other way was I going to go sightseeing at all. So this was sort of my form of getting out, sightseeing, proving I was there. Got back again. I was a little late. I was supposed to meet Tim at about 9 and I wasn't back till 8:40. I had to do a call. I got up to my room and I'm like sweating. I'm wearing in Kid We Trust. I have 10 shirts from my time at the Nets. I have 10 of the same shirts because they would have in the postseason, they would sort of have these promos as they do in many places. I remember the Heat used to do the whiteout and all the crowd would wear white. So it was just overwhelming. But they had these shirts made when the Nets got to Game 6 of the second round of the playoffs in 2007. And they went to Game 6. They ended up losing in Game 6, but it was against LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so these shirts were made that said, "In Kid We Trust." And within the kid letters were like his eyes. And it's cool. I have 10 of them. I like the shirts. They're loose. They're comfortable. They've hung around these coming up on 10 years now. And so I went for that run and loved it, but I got back and I was sweating profusely. And you worry about walking through the lobby of a hotel like this and you got to play it cool, act like it's normal. You're completely overwhelmingly sweating. You feel completely out of place, but you are a member there and you're supposed to, or not a member, you're a guest there. You're supposed to tell people, no, I'm a guest. It's okay. I did just go for a run. What's so weird about that? But I get on the elevator, go up to my room. I'm putting the key in the keyhole. It's just not working. The card is not working. And then all of a sudden, a security guard materializes out of nowhere and he goes, "Can I help you?" It's like, what do you mean, can I help? What do you mean, can you help me? I'm trying to get in my room. And he's like, "Oh, really? Did you talk to the front desk?" And I'm like, "No, this just happened." And he's like, "Do you got to call something?" I'm like, "No, I have another key in my room. I don't know what else to do." And he's like, "Well, I guess I could open it for you this time." And I was like, "What do you mean this time? Like, what am I supposed to do? You want me going back into the lobby all sweaty?" He opens it and he's like, "All right, just show me some ID." I'm like, "Okay, this is strange." So I had to go find my wallet, showed him my ID, and I guess that did it for him. And he went on his way. But it was like weird to almost be doubted that I was supposed to be there. And I don't even know how that happened. did he just happen upon me? Was there some camera footage where they're like, let's follow this weird sweating guy coming in? I don't know. But when I got back, I got ready. For some reason, and maybe this was because I booked through Expedia at the cheapest level, I had a shower bathroom that was quote unquote accessible, which means it's geared towards guests with disabilities. Again, I just purchased it through Expedia. I didn't quite know what this meant, but it was so weird. So it's like sort of an open plan shower, and you have a real cheapy little shower curtain that you kind of move over, but it's got a seat in there, like a little bench, and then it has just a shower head that is up top. And first of all, I would have to duck to go under it. It was about 4.5 feet high, because it's not meant, I guess, for standing under. And it's just an arm. You just take it off and you like shower yourself. But I'm trying to do it with the thing maintaining on there. And it just is making an absolute, when I try to aim it up at my head so that I can actually be under the shower, it made an absolute mess of the hotel. I don't know how the hotel bathroom didn't flood. Now there were drains all around the room, which is a weird thing, but it didn't seem like the flooring was set up to concave into the drains. So literally there are massive amounts of water moving through this bathroom. And I'm like, this is out of control. I had to like put down all these towels. I'm slipping on everything. Really weird. And it's one of those things I'm like, I don't know if it was meant to really be built this way. It was just something very strange. But it did end up being another beautiful day. Got up to 80 that day. I met Tim downstairs and we headed over for the Center for American Progress. We had the podcast that we were there to observe, witness at 11 a.m. One of the cool things, they have a radio coordinator there. What a cool job name. It's amazing that these new technologies create these new jobs at what would be considered to be sort of older type businesses, organizations, think tanks, and they have to move ahead like startups with certain new platforms. And it was cool that this job is created to service what is this new technology. And so I got there a little early. I met with this younger girl. She was a coordinator there, younger woman. And she walked me through their setup. I got to see their little studio room. And you see no one's that far ahead of you, which is great. They had a really cool looking studio, and they pretty much use this studio. They don't even have their own podcast network yet. They use this studio for their own people because they have experts in so many different fields. Again, they're more of a liberal bent, activist, progressive, but they use this for their people to appear on other shows. So it could be radio, NPR, it could be other podcasts. This is actually where, if anyone listens to the Pod Save America show, this is where Neera Tanden, who our co-founder interviewed on this day, this is where she sat to be interviewed by the Pod Save America crew, who were at the time in California. So this girl who works there, the radio coordinator, was telling me how it works. She said that they had a phone coming in from California, and then she individually recorded Neera Tanden there in Washington, and she records it onto a MacBook Pro, recorded her feed, and then sent that MP3 over to the producers of Pod Save America, and then they integrated the two together, so it sounded like she was in the same studio with them, which is like, it was awesome. I noticed that when I listened to it. So I'm geeking out, and I'm asking her all about how she did that. But it was really cool to watch. It was a really important thing to go to for me. It's just, these are the kinds of things where you could easily say at the start of the week, like I did, no, I don't have to go. It'll be fine. It's all covered. But selfishly, sometimes you want to go to things like this and be present, be accounted for, talk to people, be in Washington on a beautiful 80-degree day in February. It was just good. And you come home you come home with a feeling of accomplishment, even though I didn't accomplish anything, but feeling that you're not that far off from a lot of these bigger organizations' productions. So that was kind of cool. And maybe I can get in a conversation with her. Maybe there's some things that I can give some pointers on, or maybe you have some opportunities to get some business from it. You never know. It's just so good. It's networking. It's really great to be out there. But yeah, met Neera Tanden. She was awesome. And the podcast went really well. And then we were out of there by 12:30. We were out of Washington by 12:30. Got back just in time. I mean, the problem when you come home from Washington at any point is that if you don't take the train and you drive, In theory, it's a 3-hour and 45-minute drive from there to the northern New Jersey, New York area. But when you think about it, if you go at the wrong times or at any times, there's many pitfalls for potential traffic pattern issues, because you have to go out of Washington, then you come up across Baltimore with its own traffic patterns, then you come up against Philadelphia. Before that, you do have Delaware. Wilmington, Delaware doesn't quite have the hit, but it's there. And then all along up through New Jersey before you come up into the area of New York and Newark and all that. So there's a lot of potential issues you could run into, which one of them can just go wrong, and that can be a major problem. But we ultimately did okay. I got home that night. Melanie was actually not home. She went to a concert with her mom, a symphony concert. And so it was like yet another night where I'm sort of on my own. Reacquainted with my little man, Liam, and put him to bed. And then I ate some amazing turkey kielbasa that Melanie had made. Really good meal, very wholesome. I had a couple of IPAs while I was eating it. Something called Mega Boss IPAs by Newburgh Brewing Company. I believe my brother got it for me for was it Christmas? They were really good though. They were a nice 90 to 92, 94, I think 92 level IPA. Anything over 90 is good. It's sort of like wine, right? There's a few that are 100, and I always go back to those. Like Ballast Point Sculpin is 100. I think Union Jack IPA is 100. Stone Ruination, I believe, is 100. You get those and you taste the difference. But hey, a 92 is great, and that was there, so I had it. And I watched a couple of Walking Dead episodes. I'm still a full season behind, but I'm making my way slowly. Saturday, got up, settled in to watch some college basketball. I have not watched college basketball like at all this year. I've been down, as I've talked about, from the political atmosphere. I've been down on a lot. It's like I've been grieving something, and I'm not trying to sound, overly emotional or hyperbolic or anything, but I really was affected by that election, and it was hard to just get back into sports. It was hard to just get back into that stuff. Plus, I didn't have a team who was in it. The Nets are awful. I mean, I just did a tweet today. The Nets played the Golden State Warriors last night in Golden State, and after that Golden State win, Nets loss, the Golden State Warriors are 49-9 and the Nets are 9-49. So there is not a lot of enjoyment to get behind in that. So I'm just, from a general interest point of view, getting into the league. And I've been watching again. I watched the Boogie, Anthony Davis. There are some interesting things that happened after the trading season that will bear some watching. It'll be interesting to watch Toronto. It'll be interesting to watch New Orleans. It'll be fun to just see how some of these new team combinations come together, to see if anybody can take on the dominance of Golden State and Cleveland, looking like we're headed that way. And again, I don't want anything to change that. I want to see that finals, but it does make the lead up to that not as exciting. But I've been trying, and I felt it kind of like spring, like flowers in spring coming up, and I'm starting to get more involved. And yesterday, I decided I'm really involved in college basketball. I love watching college basketball for the very purpose of how these top players will end up in the NBA. What are they going to do in the NBA? That's my big thing. Now, again, we never know that until they get there, and we can see who are the primetime players, who are the ones who had a lot of hype but didn't quite have it. Maybe they have the skill set, but they don't have the will set. It's hard to always tell that. Sometimes I often wish we could just stick a guy in the NBA like right now, see if he competes at a high level, then put him right back in college so we know we're watching him and he's legit. He's going to be a major player at the next level. We kind of have to guess. We have to watch mock drafts. I mean, it's like this in any sports. Football, especially with quarterbacks, it's like hit or miss a lot of times. And really what they do in college is, it can be inconsequential to what actually ends up happening. And if you don't have a team in college, if you're not deeply behind somebody, you really don't have a rooting interest except for how they're going to do at the next level. It's just sort of the way you keep tabs on it. And so I've been listening to a lot of people. I've watched some Lonzo Ball, really enjoy the way he plays. I've watched a bit of him leading up to it. I've followed here and there on Malik Monk. But other than that, I haven't really gotten into like the Markelle Fultz or any of these other guys from like Kansas or what are Jason Tatum? A lot of these guys I don't know, but I will come to know them over the next month and a half. It's just what happens. We won't know Markelle Fultz because he's not going anywhere in terms of the March Madness. He's not going to get there. Washington is abysmal, which could say something to you about him, or it couldn't. You just don't know. It doesn't mean anything. Damian Lillard never played, I believe, he played for Little Weber State, and he never played in the tournament, and yet he's a great guard. His backcourt mate played at a small college, C.J. McCollum. I believe he did go to a year or two in the tournament, but he ended up being great. So you never know. There's something inborn in these players sometimes that allows them to thrive at any level, and you just can't see it on the court. You can see the skill, and you can trust that it'll convey to the next level, but you don't know. But I like to see these guys play in primetime matchups. And yesterday, that first Saturday, I really dug into college football or college basketball. They had them. There were two matchups that were amazing that I pretty much watched start to finish. One was Kentucky and Florida. It was like 13 versus 11. They're very highly ranked teams, and Florida really played well. It was in Kentucky, but I really wanted to see Malik Monk, and I really saw the best of him. He only had 3 points in the first half. He had 30 in the second. He went off like crazy to help Kentucky get the win. After it appeared Florida really had control of this game, you can't control for someone going crazy. You can't control for someone changing the complexion of the game at that level. Malik Monk is someone who's looking like he's going to be around the 10 level in the draft, and you can see why. He's only 6'3", although he does have something like a 6'6" wingspan. He's got something to him. This guy has something special. He can just score at prolific mythological levels in games. He could just take over from three. He can get to the hoop. He can make nice passes off of his shot. He's a really good player. But is he someone who's going to lead your team? You need somebody almost to be able to be a point two guard, or be a point guard. You need someone who's going to run this thing. And I'm not sure if he could. The thing with Malik Monk, he almost reminds me of like a receiver, like an Odell Beckham Jr., where they can break the game open, but they need the ball to come to him so that he can break it, so he can break the game open. He's not necessarily just going to take it from a dead stop and do it. Like a receiver can't do that. You know what I mean? You got to have the quarterback who gives it to you. But Monk does have a knack for the moment in the big shot. I wonder if he's best suited as a six-man, like a microwave-type player who ends up finishing the games. Almost thinking like Ben Gordon, who was a third pick to the Bulls back in 2004. He was only 6'2", I think. Now, he did start as a combo guard who was going to bring the ball up and be a shoot-first point guard. He ended up, though, as a prolific six-man for a while. He did get a huge deal from Detroit, but there was really that moment in time where he would put up these like 20-point quarters in the fourth quarters. He would just heat up big time. And I'm almost wondering if Malik Monk ends up there. And if he's drafted from like a 10 level or back, it's okay for him in a way to become a super six man who finishes the games. But if he's drafted higher, there's going to be bigger expectations on him maybe than the draft slot. The draft slot could end up impeding him a little bit because people will expect more from that draft slot. But he's something to watch, and you really hope he could go to the next level and do something. I mean, I've seen guys do this in college, though. I mean, we saw it last year with Buddy Hield. Now, Buddy Hield did have many years leading up to that to become a player like that. Malik Monk's hitting the ground as a freshman doing what he's doing. He went to Bentonville High School, which is, of course, where Walmart is based. So there's a little mythology to him in where he's from and what he does. I think Joe Johnson was from Arkansas, not necessarily Bentonville, but he's got something. He definitely does. But we've seen guys in the past from Kentucky have something, and we just got to see if what he does can translate itself to the next level. And will it be as a primetime start the game player, or will it be as somebody who comes in, changes the complexion of a game when the ball comes to him, and then can end the game? He can still put up 20-point quarters, but I just wonder if the kind of Ben Gordon thing is that. But then it led me into the night where I was really excited to watch UCLA at Arizona. Lonzo Ball, again, is the guy to watch. He's special. I'm a Jason Kidd lover as a player, and Lonzo Ball is like the current day Jason Kidd. He's the obvious comparison to him. They're both pass first point guards to the extreme. I love pass first point guards. They're like they're like the pocket passing quarterback, where you have the guy who in the normal in the normal running of a game, can take it from center, and you know he's going to get the ball to where it needs to go at any one time. He's not going to get hurt like a running quarterback. He's not going to have to make things happen by evading and being elusive. It's me against you. I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to hit someone in stride. I'm going to hit them the right way. I'm going to make some field passes, and we're going to win that way. That's what I like about pass-first point guards and pocket passers. But he's got this calm, I got this demeanor, and he has an immensely high basketball IQ. It is like Jason Kidd. Now, Jason Kidd, as you'll hear from many people when they talk about Ball, Jason Kidd was a better defender at this level. Ball is a much better shooter. Now, Jason Kidd ended up being a really good shooter. There was a point when he was still playing, or right at the end, where I think he had the third most or second most three-pointers made in his career. He became a really good three-point shooter. Now, it wasn't like he was shooting them like Steph, where he's off the bounce. Like, he was getting open shots based on pace and space and the floor opening up, and playing with guys like Vince Carter and Dirk Nowitzki, where the game is sucked into them and then they can hit open shooters. But he worked on his craft with guys like Bob Tate, and he worked and he worked and he worked until he became a really proficient open three-point shooter. Now, Lonzo Ball is already there. Problem with Lonzo Ball is he has a weird shot where he is a righty, but he shoots it from the left side of his head. Almost looks a little like Kevin Martin, who had that really bizarre shot. But a lot of people are saying that this is going to be the reason Lonzo Ball doesn't translate to the NBA right off the bat. I completely disagree, and here's why. I think this guy just has it, and I think he shoots this way for a reason. It's how he's comfortable. He's going to have a lot of open shots. A lot of people say, oh, he's not great in the mid-range game. Who's great in the mid-range game anymore? It's about threes and layups and dunks, and getting guys open on back doors and getting pace and space and hitting threes. That's the name of the game now. It's the Steph Curry way. Everyone's like this. This is how the game is played. So I don't think mid-range jumpers really matter. And I think when you watch this guy play, he finds open shots. He finds it. And he finds openings against the defender. And he hits crazy shots. His range is insane. And he's also rangy. He's 6'6". Jason Kidd was 6'4". I think his height, his length, his lankiness, it actually reminds me of Sean Livingston pre-injury. Now, you can see Sean Livingston is still a major player at 31, 32 years old because of his IQ, even after having that debilitating, tragic knee injury, where he was still able to come back and get a nice contract from Golden State, nice mid-level contract. But this guy was like a top pick, and he was a major force as a point guard before the injury. He was really coming on to be a high-level pass-first point guard, and he had the same size. I mean, he was an inch taller than Ball, same weight though. They're like the same build. I think Ball is going to be fine. I think he'll find a way because of his basketball IQ and because of the will to win. I mean, he has UCLA at like, 25-3 or something. This is a winner. Because of his will to win, he's going to defend. He'll be fine, and I can't wait to see him play. He is the prototypical pass-first point guard. He is the pocket passer. It's going to be really, really interesting to see him at the next level. I mean, again, I'm talking sort of about this whole football to basketball. The floor general in basketball is sort of like the quarterback in football. And, as I said, the great ones in football and in basketball, they last because they mostly stay out of harm's way. They're prolific, and you would rather have one than the alternative. You would rather have a pocket passer if you have the choice at the highest levels. And these guys don't get amazingly injured because they're not throwing. The way that a running quarterback runs to either get yardage or to find space and to find time for their receivers to get open is the same way a shoot-first point guard goes to the hoop. They throw themselves into harm to get to the line, to get points, and those are free points, but they were at a cost. Your body gets thrown around. At a certain size, guys' careers can be finished by going to the hoop, like a running back who only has so many carries. You get hit so many times. First of all, injuries just can happen. You land on legs, you land on other feet, you land funny on your back, you land on your arm. Like, injuries just happen when you throw yourself at the hoop. Yes, there are free points, but they're at a cost. And I think that that's the case with Alonzo Ball. He is a pass-first pocket passer. Markelle Fultz, again, I have not watched a lot of him in real games, and there's a reason his team is not very good. They are not going to the tournament, And I don't really know why they're not very good, because Washington has a history of being a good team, and I don't know why they weren't able to put a team around a Markelle Fultz. Like, how were they able to get Markelle Fultz, but then yet not have a team, and then for everything to kind of fall apart? Markelle Fultz is the putative number 1 draft pick. He's the guy they're saying. He has a shoot first mentality. He's like a running quarterback. He reminds me a little like Westbrook like this, where he can get to the hoop. He can hit shots. He's probably a better shooter than Westbrook was, even though Westbrook has become better. But guys get open off of his ability to suck the defense in. And his thought is to score first. But once the defense comes into him, it opens guys up, and then he passes. His comps are Harden and D'Angelo Russell, actually, which was interesting to me, them both being lefties and him being a righty. But he looks really good. I've watched a lot of the highlights of him, and a lot of like the game breakdowns of him. He's silky smooth. The game comes easy to him. I don't know how that translates to the next level. It could just translate and he'll be fine immediately. I still think it's hard once you see a lot of highlights of him, but that's the issue with highlight. They just look good. They look great at how the guy plays. But Lonzo Ball, to me, comes in and he's going to run your team. He's going to be a pocket passer. The question is he Matt Ryan or is he Peyton Manning? That's a difference. They can both still lead you to the promised land, or at least to the precipice of the promised land. But which one as a pocket passer? The will can kind of determine where you go and the levels that you improve at year after year. But I think he is going to be tremendous, and the NBA 3 line will be no impediment to him. He'll probably hit him from further back. And I think the space that's afforded to you at the NBA level, because of that line, because the game is played from the outside now, I think he's going to be even better than he is in college. I think he'll get to the hoop easier with the space, and I think he'll hit threes like real easy. It would be real fun to see if he goes to the Lakers, as his father seems to think he will. It looks like he'll be a number 2 pick. Jason Kidd was a number 2 pick. And I also noticed the same amount of letters. Jason Kidd has 9 letters. Lonzo Ball has 9 letters. They sort of have the same kind of they sort of have the same kind of feel to the names. They almost feel special, mythological. Not that it matters, but they have a lot of the same skin tone too. There's just a lot of things that feel similar, but they're also different. Again, Kidd was a great defender at this level, not a very good shooter. Ball's a great shooter, and Ball is 2 inches taller at least, and those 2 inches make a big deal in the NBA. It's maybe where Sean Livingston could have ended up, and he's ended up at a very good career, all things considered. Well, guys, that was fun. We got all kinds of breakdowns into life and basketball and getting back up off the mat after an ugly election time, and politics continues to be ugly. But the one thing I would say, I thought I was going to go to Washington and it was going to feel like the Upside Down in Stranger Things, that it was going to feel like Washington, it was going to look like Washington, but it was going to have that dark tinge of us on the other side of the rope, on the hidden end, on the yin of the yang of the world we see. And it didn't. It felt like Washington. It had the same optimism when I was going around. I saw all the same people going to work as they would every day. There was not a pall over the Capitol. It felt fine. Might have helped that it was almost 60 degrees when I was running at 7 in the morning. But I saw those statues. I saw those monuments, and even saw the White House. And I still got that feeling of optimism about the country. And I think we'll be fine eventually. Just stick to your guns and stay with it and stay positive. And if you need it, get back into sports. I'll talk to you all later. Thanks so much.